The Hyperkin DuchesS featured in today's review was provided courtesy of Hyperkin. Hyperkin's partnership with Xbox has brought to life some wonderfully nostalgic controllers like the replicas of the OG Xbox's Duke and the Xbox 360 wired controller. The latest gift of this partnership is the Hyperkin DuchesS, a replica of the smaller OG Xbox Controller S. Unlike Hyperkin's past entries, the DuchesS is launching with Hall effect sticks to complement its classic design. Along with added shoulder and share buttons, the DuchesS is set to be the ultimate nostalgia trip for OG Xbox fans. The DuchesS box has a nice green theme with a glossy depiction of the Duchess placed in the center. The DuchesS name resides directly below, with key features being prominently placed alongside. Being an officially licensed product, the Xbox branding is also displayed. The side of the box gives us another look at the DuchesS from the side with compatible platforms. On the opposite side, we got a neat exploded view of the DuchesS's Hall effect sticks. The back of the box breaks down all of the DuchesS's design highlights in multiple languages. Opening the box reveals a fun inner flap celebrating the return of this classic controller design. Inside the box you will find the DuchesS, a braided USB-C cable, a quick start guide, a Hyperkin sticker, and finally a card with Hyperkin's support email and socials. The DuchesS is a near-perfect replica of the Xbox Controller S. Picking up the controller for the first time, you know you are holding an authentic style Controller S from the way its handles feel in the hands. The molds appear practically identical to the 2002 original, and even the cord comes out of the same location. Only this time around it's a removable USB-C cable, ensuring it can be replaced if needed. The included 10-foot braided cable is nice and gives the DuchesS a more premium aesthetic when first getting set up. Button placements, thumbstick caps, and the D-pad further replicate the feel of the original Controller S. Though for the D-pad this might be considered a negative, as the Controller S never had a D-pad that was considered great. There are differences, however. The colors of the face buttons are slightly different, and they are no longer pressure sensitive. The buttons are louder but have a good feel while in use. The triggers have a new straight design instead of being curved and offer great resistance. Start and back now bear the symbols of menu and view found on modern Xbox controllers. The memory card ports have been removed, and their old location is a solid plastic part of the DuchesS's shell. That bears the Hyperkin name. New additions include shoulder buttons mirroring black and white, they have a nice click to them, and are quite large compared to other Xbox controllers. A stark contrast to the Hyperkin Duke's smaller bumpers. A share button and a 3.5mm headset port are also included in the new mold and fit well into the overall aesthetic. The OG Xbox jewel at the center of the pad has also been repurposed into a home button, ensuring full functionality with modern Xbox platforms with an LED power indicator above it to know when the pad is in use. Hall effect thumbsticks are the last real change and are a welcomed one. Stick resistance is superb, and combined with the thumb cap style of the Controller S just feel awesome in use. It also helps that the thumbstick housing has more of an anti-friction coating than the original Controller S, allowing the smoothest rotations possible. Despite the changes, looking and holding the DuchesS is exactly what you want from a new Controller S in 2024 and beyond. It has a solid build, and the plastic is sturdy and has no issues withstanding everyday wear and tear. The Hall effect thumbsticks are a huge addition to the overall build quality, as they are less prone to wear over time and will ensure the DuchesS is ready to play for years. The DuchesS's weight is perfect, not too heavy or light, even with the 4 rumble motors distributed across its handles and triggers. The Hyperkin DuchesS is compatible with Xbox One and Series consoles as well as PC. To use the controller is simple, you just connect the USB cable to your system of choice and the DuchesS. Each of these systems has seen the DuchesS without issue, and I was up and running playing games within seconds. Because of its wired connection, latency for the DuchesS is lower than your standard Xbox wireless controller. While not noticeable in most use cases, fans of fighting games and retro compilations will be pleased by the results. After nearly 37 hours of play, I have not encountered any issues from latency or dropped inputs while using the DuchesS. Base and shoulder buttons have performed very well throughout my testing of the DuchesS. As just mentioned, they have yet to give any drops or latency issues. The tactile feel while in use is nice, and I have not found any buttons overly stiff. The placement of black and white under the face buttons has never been my favorite compared to the top placement of the Duke, and I still find that to be the case with the DuchesS. Thankfully, the new shoulder buttons make up for this and have worked well in everything I have played. While being placed where they are out of necessity, it is harder to quickly slide back and forth between them and the triggers. I have also noticed during prolonged use of the shoulder buttons, my fingers begin to feel more strained than with standard pads. Using constant dashes in Mega Man X games or fighting in Tales of Arise are my biggest offenders here. In games like Halo, it is a complete non-issue. Funny how after 20 years, Need for Speed Underground is still my go-to on how well an analog trigger will behave. One of the first things I did upon plugging in the DuchesS to my PC was load up Underground to check its triggers. The results were fantastic and have left me with no concern about how they would perform in modern titles. And sure enough, modern titles have had no issues whatsoever. From fighting games to shooters to racing games, everything has worked beautifully. While results in game have been fantastic, I didn't appreciate these triggers enough until I loaded up a controller tester to see just how good their ranges and dead zones are. Ranges begin registering almost immediately after the press begins, and they don't hit a full pull until reaching the end. Too many modern third-party pads have a significant dead zone and max out too early, resulting in awkward performance in games. As for the D-pad, it behaves almost the same as that on an original controller S. While the DuchesS D-pad registers every direction and diagonal without issue, it doesn't feel the best in use. The rocker style is typically a favorite of mine, especially those found on the V2 Sega Saturn pads, but for the Xbox, it has never been the greatest. Despite being a longtime Xbox fan, modern Xbox D-pads have made me stop defending the controller S and 360 D-pads. It gets the job done, and I haven't had any issues with combos in Street Fighter or Tony Hawk, but preference will be a factor here if you like it. That being said, I am glad Hyperkin stuck to the original controller S style, as changing it would have lost that spirit of authenticity for the DuchesS's design. The Hall effect thumbsticks found on the DuchesS are an area where the controller has exceeded my expectations. Playing Halo, Apex Legends, Forza, Tomb Raider, and various GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation 2 games with emulation have all felt amazing. The sticks have no dead zone, ensuring that movement starts as soon as you begin input. The stick resistance is again right on point to allow for fine aiming and movement without issue. I have literally nothing to even nitpick about the way these sticks have handled. Loading up a circularity test, the DuchesS only has a 1.4% air on both sticks, a truly awesome result considering a standard Xbox Series X pad can have upwards of 8% air, and a PlayStation's DualSense has upward of 9% air for my personal pads. Using L3 and R3 during play also works as expected. Now to touch on a few of the other features of the DuchesS. Rumble has a good power level and the motors are not obnoxiously loud while in use. Impulse rumble and the triggers for supported titles also works well during play, bringing that extra level of immersion to bear. The share button has worked without a hitch for screenshots and videos. The headset port has likewise worked without any noticeable issues in my setup with Dolby DTS-X and Dolby Atmos for headsets, having no cutouts while in use. One of the more interesting opportunities for the Hyperkin DuchesS is to be a viable replacement controller for the OG Xbox. While not supported by the system out of the box, it is possible to connect the DuchesS to an Xbox with the use of a Brook adapter or other similar devices connected to an Xbox to USB converter. The DuchesS's performance on the OG Xbox has proven to be just as capable as on modern Xbox systems, but there are some things to note. Buttons losing out on pressure sensitivity makes the games that rely on them more problematic, such as Metal Gear Solid 2's firing mechanic. Thumbsticks also lose some movement on their diagonals in some titles. Otherwise, the use case works fairly well. Normally here I would list problems I have found with the controller, but the DuchesS really doesn't have any glaring issues needing to be addressed. Instead, let's talk about factors of the DuchesS that may be hit or miss for some of you out there. First of these being, the DuchesS is a wired controller only. Many of you have expressed to me in past reviews that certain controllers look great, but them being limited to wired play is a no-go. Do keep in mind that a wired connection does ensure the lowest latency possible, but as a parent of many kids, I tend to keep the DuchesS attached to my computer more than the living room Xbox as a result. Hyperkin's decision to keep the original controller S-style D-pad will also be a point to consider if you plan on using the pad for more D-pad focused things. Again, it isn't the worst D-pad I've ever used and actually works very well overall, but it still lacks the comfort of many modern options. Mirrored shoulder buttons are another area that may cause some contention. While using the DuchesS, there is no way to have the new shoulder buttons and the black and white buttons act as independent buttons on a PC. I have never personally found this to be an issue, but it gets brought up more often than expected, so if you were hoping otherwise, sorry, mirrored operation only. The DuchesS has proven to be an extremely capable and nostalgic controller that I have greatly enjoyed playing with. With its Hall effect thumbsticks and excellent triggers and performance, every title I have paired with the DuchesS has been a flawless experience. Hopefully in the future, Hyperkin can come to an arrangement with Microsoft to allow wireless versions of the DuchesS to be made. Until then, the DuchesS stands strong as a fantastic wired input option. So those are my thoughts on the Hyperkin DuchesS. If you are a fan of the OG controller S and you wish you could use it in a modern way, this controller really is going to be the perfect one for you. It's just performed so well. Again, even after all this time, really can't come up with even the most nitpicky of things that I can truly stand behind without sounding like a complete fool. I've been blown away by this. I've been critical of Hyperkin's controllers in the past, so this controller is just honestly, again, awesome. And I just want to give a big thank you to Hyperkin for sending this one out our way to test out and share with all of you. Keep up the good work. I hope to see all of your future controllers perform as well as this one. This is top notch. But thank you all again for watching today's review of the Hyperkin DuchesS. If you would like to check it out and support our channel at the same time, be sure to check out the link in the description below. Pick this one up, and a little bit goes to us. So anyway, here at the end, usual favors to ask. Thumbs up, thumbs down, depending how much you like today's video, as well as the sub button, notification bell if you want to see more videos on my channel, because I make a crap ton. And there's always more coming your way, and I want you here. Anyway, but for anyone that is interested in further helping support our channel to keep it going, also be sure to check out that join button here on YouTube or the Patreon link in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, as the littlest amount really helps keep us going. You have no idea. But till next time, my wonderful internet peeps, you all keep gaming. We'll see you back next video.